And my purpose now, I think, is, being of service to others. If I can help one person succeed in life, I think when I'm laid to rest, I'll be a pretty happy guy.
You're going to love this episode. We had Jim Dore come in with Beyond Consulting. He's a coach, a business coach, executive coach. What I want you to pay attention to is the experience that he came to coaching with. As a lifelong learner, he's really and truly dedicated himself and honed his craft. Here's Jim's episode.
I love having conversation.
Yeah.
Conversation is so important.
Oh, it is. And it's the start of everything.
Well, imagine a world without conversation.
I know.
It would be pretty boring.
You come with a really wide body of experience. Where'd you start in your career-wise?
Oh, gosh. It goes back to 1973. I'll try to be brief if I can, but my brother at age 30 had gone in to sell insurance to a diving company. They hired him right on the spot, and he eventually became partner in a second business. The diving business he was hired for began to fall apart, and my brother, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided to swap his half of this rental company he was in for the diving company against everyone's thoughts on that. But I was in high school, with 12 years apart. So I began working with him, literally sweeping floors, and then later I graduated to driving trucks, and but my whole career was with my brother, and we began to grow that company, and we went public in 1993, and in 2008 we hit right about 1.2 billion, maybe 1.3 billion. And that was one of the goals that he had set for himself and for the company, and one was to be the biggest in the Gulf, the biggest in the world, and then to become $1 billion company. So throughout that 35 plus years, I've done just about every role in the company. So it gave me some insight as to what others did around me to help me understand better, how the business operates from internally. So It was just a fantastic career.
So it was a diving company for oil field?
Yes, it was offshore. We began as a diving company.
Got it.
Later, and we grew through acquisition. We purchased 14 or so companies.
Yeah.
We started in diving, then we began in pipeline installation, then heavy lift, where we did removals and installs. Later, because we did some organic growth too, we got into deep water. We then got into remote operated vehicles. So we went from 3 feet of water to over 10,000 feet of water, where we were servicing customers on a global basis. It was a very interesting.
It truly is amazing from a defunct company that he just got into to publicly traded over a $1 billion a year company.
Yeah, I mean it sounds great.
I bet you there are challenges,
but it doesn't come. Yeah, it doesn't come without sacrifice and challenge, and some good and some bad, honestly. And I reflect on that a lot.
So I know that you will have experienced something throughout that career that helps you in what you're doing today. What's the biggest lesson?
How to treat people.
Amen.
People are the underpinning of everything we do. The people that work with us, around us, to support people, even on the outside, our family. And family is so important, and having the right partner, in my case, spouse, who believed in me and who put up with me now. I'm really happy at 44 years. I've wondered sometimes why she actually stuck around, because I wasn't always there and I wasn't always present.
Sure.
When we talk about people again, I wasn't always present for her and for my children, because we grew a company and we were growing at very fast pace toward the end. But biggest learning for me and the biggest thing for me is appreciating what other people do for me, for us to succeed.
Yeah, that's very, very good. So what are you doing today?
Pretty much, I'm kind of making amends. I actually gave a talk to Lafayette Convention and Visitor Center last week. They asked me to talk about leadership, and I tried to explain to them to not make the same mistakes that I did. It isn't about teaching you leadership; it's about learning from others. And so what I'm doing today is trying to give back those lessons, those potholes I stepped in, those curves that I missed, and the ledges I went off, and the things that if I could have improved myself at an early stage, I think it would have been better for me mentally and physically, honestly.
Yeah. But we have to go through challenges, and we have to have this appreciation when we look back on them that we had to go through it? I mean, do you feel like it's made you into who you are today? Even though you may have regrets or you're making amends?
Yes, I'm absolutely.
Yeah.
You're looking back with the beautiful thing about life is we can look back, and those of us who really want to change, and you really need that's something that a lot of people miss. You've got to want to change. I'm not the same person I was in high school or even when we began a company, or even when I retired from our company. I was so reinventing yourself, really studying who you want to be, committing to that, and being a constant learner. I'm a lifelong learner. Yeah, we hear that all the time. But if we aren't reading, if we aren't listening to podcasts like yours, if we aren't staying present with what's happening around us, how do we improve otherwise? So for me, it's about trying to share that with others so that we can all begin to grow, become better, and at the end of the day, have a better life in the end. And I could share a story about that, but
please,
I'm probably at a decent place now. But there was a point in my career that I would always take my work home.
Yeah.
My work attitude. My wife Gail would always say, she said, "You aren't at work anymore, Jim." I said, "What?" But it was my only mode. So I treated my children like I did at work, which was not very good, by the way. And I actually apologized to some of my employees. But I was very hard on my kids, harsh on my kids. But the main thing I learned through all of that now is it's better to do more listening than talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was speaking down to my children and not listening to what their real issues are. And I can relate to my employees. I was more speaking down to my employees and not always listening to my employees because they had great ideas and they had reasonable explanations for some of the things that they did.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a coach at that time. I was more the dictator, more to tell you what to do. And thank God, and literally, that I was able to transition from that attitude, that mentality, into one of a coaching attitude mentality. But the real story behind that is because I was gone so long, and when I finally retired, I said, "Oh, great, I'll be able to spend time with my kids." My kids didn't want anything to do with me. They saw the old me. They saw the guy that was always critical of them and not very understanding of them, but always wanted to tell them what to do because I always had the answer, which was unfortunately terribly wrong. The good news is my grandchildren come along, and I'm learning so much from my grandchildren. And I say it all the time, I got a second chance.
Yeah.
And I now listen to them better, and I'm more focused and more intentional about that than I was when I was in business. So my takeaway from business is, I did a lot of wrong things, but I did learn a lot of good things that came out of that turmoil that I went through in life. So
yeah. A couple key things that I picked up on when you were talking is, one, you learn, you're a lifelong learner and you learn lessons. Number two, you got to want to change. And then your transition from being this guy who was so driven and kind of pushed, right? And instead of listening, you became a coach, right? And I think that is one of the most critical pieces of the puzzle is to coach along the way, lift people up and help them get where they want to go and where they need to go, right? It's huge.
Oh, it's huge.
I love that.
It's about attitude, as well. And, I always tell my kids, even when they were little, I said, you have a decision to make when your feet hit the floor every morning before you stand up and you get out of bed, you have a decision. And your decision is going to be, it's going to be a good day, a bad day. I'm going to treat people well. I'm not going to treat them well. I'm going to love, I'm going to hate. I'm going to be myself or I'm going to try to be someone else. I'm going to hang with the right crowd. I'm not going to hang with the right crowd. So even though I was telling it to my children, it wasn't resonating with me until later in life. And the coaching experience has really and truly, honestly changed. It really has changed my life.
No doubt about
working with other coaches, you begin to realize your own shortfalls, and you recognize what their behaviors are, and you go, "Wow, man, I could have gotten the same result with a different behavior."
Yeah.
So that drove me to try to change. So.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. I want to hear more. I definitely want to hear about your coaching practice and what you're doing today, but I'm kind of fascinated that you and your brother can take a company from nothing and turning into a publicly traded over a $1 billion a year company. That how'd y'all go about doing that?
Well, we opened with a discussion about people.
Yeah.
My brother Bill Dore had gone. He went to Magnesia on a football scholarship. Worked extremely hard, but in the back of his mind, he always wanted to be a coach. So he went back to school, got his master's actually in physical education because he wanted to be a coach. He's always had that mentality. And what he would tell me and others often, especially when I'd get off track, he would say, look, we have all this equipment in the world. We bought all this equipment, but none of it operates without people.
Amen.
So appreciate the people that are out there, working their hands to the bone sometimes in harsh weather conditions, because we were in diving and everything we did was offshore. Those people are away from their families. They're away from home. There are the people in the back that no one's really seeing at the front here at the office. So appreciate every one of those. So how do we get there? On the backs of others, with the help of others, with the support of others, just as we open this whole discussion.
Honestly, the best answer I could have gotten to that question.
Yeah.
And everybody, whoever's listening, that's what it's all about. I mean, ideas are great, but if people can't execute on them and make them happen, come to life.
And you just struck a chord with me. It's all about execution.
It is. It's people and execution.
Yeah. And there was a guy that a man we brought in. He was from Harvard University. His name was Ram Charan. Ram had been the coach for Chrysler, Coca-Cola, and some other big names. And but Ram had come in and he talked a whole lot about not just the people. You can find business, you can get business. How do you keep business? But his whole focus was really all about people and raising them up. But it was all about, now you have the right people, you have all the people in the place that you need. The issue that all of us faced in business was executing that strategy. Yeah. Many of us think about all the things we want to do, and we put people in place, but then we go off in our own space and expect others to get the job done for us without having an executable plan and following up. Yeah. We followed up a lot. We had a lot of follow-up discussions. Where are we on this? Where are we on that? What's the schedule? Why did it change? So execution's is as important as having all the people, because otherwise you have just chaos.
Like our guest just mentioned, chaos has a way of creeping up in our business, and it's confusing. It causes delay, and it's really, really expensive. I want to invite you to take our Erase the Chaos business assessment. It takes about 10 minutes to take. You'll get a free PDF report, and you'll have the tools you need to grow without chaos. Now, back to the episode. What I like about what you said was, you have to execute, but we had follow-up conversations. And communication is critical.
It's very critical.
And too many times we just go, like you said, go on your way, and we think it's getting done, but there's no follow-up or follow-through, and that's where failure comes in.
I was recently asked to work with I'll call them a boutique wealth company. Everyone in the company, they have 2 floors. The lower floor is typically the 50s and so. The upper floor are all 20-somethings. So they came in and they said, look, we want to transition to a bigger and larger company. Can you come in and just take a look at what we have? And I said, well, I'd be happy to. If you don't mind, I'd like to interview everyone in your company. And I did. I crafted some questions around wealth management, but more so on developing teams. Out of that, I took all of that data, put them all together, and said, let's find common threads. The number one issue was communications.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Second issue was procedures. So those 2 things alone, if we could take care of communicating properly the expectations that we have in business, and then having follow through on that I think that's the path, at least the beginning of success.
So now you're coaching businesses and individuals, right? Private coaching.
I am. Yeah. Sometimes my wife fusses at me because I do too much for free, but I have another story for you. I went to New Orleans a year ago, with some friends. We went to the Endymion Parade. We found a place to sit on. Well, it was I think it was called Felix's. So we paid so you can sit inside of your own bathroom and stuff. I had gone off to get myself a margarita because I got free tickets. And I met a woman there, and she says, "Oh, you're from Louise. You went to UL?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you a teacher?" I said, "No, I was. I was an adjunct professor." "Oh, well, my future son-in-law is in finance there, and my daughter's in nursing. Would you mind meeting him?" I said, "Yeah, of course. I'd be glad to meet him." So I met him, and I fell in love with him.
Yeah.
We were at the time probably 1920. And I said, "Listen, if you come to when you get back to Lafayette, call me. I'd love to sit with you, just chat with you." His name is Evan, and lo and behold, I get a phone call. I said, "Oh, Evan?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You said to call you. Is it okay?" I said, "Of course." So we meet probably quarterly or so now. We talk about where he is in his past. He's fast tracked. He was a 3-year graduate in finance. Now he's in taking his pursuing his master's. And in fact, we met Friday for lunch before he left. He said, "Gosh, we're going to miss you at Endymion." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to miss you guys too." But yes, I do work with youngsters. They give me energy. They give me purpose, I guess, is kind of what I look at.
Purpose. Let's talk about that. Do you ever look back and go, "Why in the world am I here?" I mean, what did God put me on this earth to do? Do you ever question that? I mean, you figured it out?
Yes. Yes to both. Have I ever gone through that questioning? Yes, of course. I think all of us do.
Yeah.
What's my purpose? Why am I here? In fact, when I had my lunch with Evan, he said, "I'm still trying to determine my purpose." I said, "Well, that's okay. I mean, that's life's journey.
Yeah.
Until we find that one thing that really resonates and sticks with me." My course, of course, I was a little bitty guy. I was 135 pounds in high school, and I thought I was going to be a professional football player. Well, that didn't work out real well.
I get the dream.
Yeah, I didn't work out real well, but I think a lot of young people do. And I just thought that was my path. Little did I realize that as all these people that I had met along the way contributed to building me into someone that was more focused on where I am right now, and that is helping others, giving back. And my purpose now, I think, is being of service to others. I'd like to make a buck along the way. I mean, it's nice to have mailbox money, but the fact is, if I can help one person succeed in life, I think when I'm laid to rest, I'll be a pretty happy guy.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
And in your position, that is the right attitude, I think. I mean, we just got to get where we're supposed to be, and it's tough sometimes.
Oh, it's and you question yourself a lot too. Is this really what I want to do? Sometimes it could be a bit frustrating because you work with businesses that, we as coaches, we don't tell them what to do. I mean, I'm not the consultant that says, "Here's how you do it." I don't tell you how to do it. Right. Plant the seeds. Of trying to work on here's what we have, and here's what you've got, and where do you want to go with this? And in some of them, it's pretty obvious, and they just don't move. And I meet 6 months from now, and they're right where they were before. So it can be a little bit frustrating. But the good upside of that is trying to determine how do we get them to move off of that position, because mentally sometimes we just get stuck. And we have fear, and the fear of failure. And trust me, I'm one of those who've always feared failure. Still do to some degree, but the older I get, the less I really care about it.
I know, I get that too.
Heck with it. I'm just going for it.
But that's one of the things that, if you're talking about getting stuck, that's one of the things that really puts you in the hole. Is just fear of failure, even fear of success. Because if you succeed, then I gotta show up every day now, So it's kind of, is there anything that you've seen that contributes to getting stuck more than anything else?
And I can't, it's tough to point to a single thing that points to, being stuck, hitting. Sometimes we hit the wall, but you just talked about something that's pretty important, and that is, you can feel upward too. It didn't work out, but something happened outside of our ability to change things. Let's say, for example, a hurricane comes or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And now you're in a business, and people are clamoring because they need your help. So now what do? I didn't plan on having to hire more people. I didn't plan on buying more equipment, but I have a service. These people want my service, and I feel obligated to do it. So it helps you overcome some of that fear. And I actually have a client that I've worked with who'd lost his father, was sort of stagnant, didn't want to do a thing. I'm right where I am, and I want to grow the company. And dadgummit, I don't have to start having natural disasters happening around the globe, and almost doubled his business.
Yeah.
But having some discussions, it said, well, wait a minute, just calm down. Just think about this thing systematically, because everything is about systems, and just work through it. But one single thing it's really, it's kind of hard to determine, one single thing. Other than, and I hear this every day. In fact, one of the opening questions at the luncheon recently was, what's the number one problem in your industries in hospitality? And it was staffing and people.
For sure.
So
yeah,
people have a fear, and sometimes it's inbred, sometimes it's created by someone else. But
yeah. A lot of times it's that fear, though.
a lot of times it's mental. Yeah, a lot of times. Well, a lot of it's because of what we grew up with.
Yeah.
Our past dictates who we are.
Oh yeah, it's truly fascinating to me.
It
and
is.
As coaches, we're not counselors, or we're not equipped to do the things that some people need. But man, you can kind of look back on history and predict the future.
Oh yeah, beyond a doubt. Yes, you can.
It's unbelievable.
And as coaches, there are some things that are shared with us. Of course, we're both, it's about confidentiality, but we hear stories of people, of where they were and where they are, and the potential of where they could possibly be. And so I take that as an opportunity to begin somehow sharing my story if it fits.
Yeah.
But to be more encouraging, more upbeat, and just say, hey, listen, man, the question is, what are you capable of?
That's right.
Don't constrain yourself to what might be, could be, but hey, am I capable of this? Yeah, of course you're capable.
Yeah.
If I try to restrain you, try to say, oh, well, you're only going to be $100,000 a year company, $1 million a year company. Well, you know what? That's who we're going to be.
That's right.
That's
exactly
right.
Right.
Everybody says it's all it can be. So for us, it's about being more encouraging, being open, being honest, being vulnerable. And leaders,
no doubt about it.
Leaders absolutely need to be vulnerable. And if I can find one thing that a lot of leaders have insecurity with, and it's that vulnerability.
No doubt about it. I mean, authenticity. So you talked about high school, right? If you look at high school, college, your career in the diamond company, and now your career as a coach, you think you got to put a face on for everybody, for your high school friends when you run into them. The truth is that's exhausting, right? And we're not actors.
That's correct.
And show up as who you are, and that's when you show up the best for the person you're with, Otherwise, you're faking it.
Well, yes, and that people see that. They recognize that, as you said about being authentic, they recognize that right away. They said, oh, this guy ain't real, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I've actually said that before, unfortunately. But, we're talking about high school and all. I was the ultimate, what is it? I was so insecure when I grew up. I had struggled with speaking to people.
Introverted
very much so, very much so.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, actually a high school friend, he reminds me of that often, I guess. But he said, "Yeah, you remember when we met? Yeah, you told me this story 1,000 times." And, we of course we had played football, and I was fortunate. I was a pretty decent athlete. God bless me with speed, so nobody could tackle me and beat me up so bad. But he said, we were running around the track one day, and he said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He said, "I just kept running." And he said, "Mate, my name's Ricky." He said, "I just kept running." He said, "You don't remember this, do you?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "I looked at you and he said, you know what? I'm going to keep asking you this until you tell me your name."
That is so good.
And we became very good friends. We were roommates at college, and we're still very good friends still today. He's one of those lifelong friends that, when you don't need people when things are going well, you need people when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
He's one of those I could call when things just aren't going very well.
Oh, we got to get Ricky on the show.
Yeah.
For somebody to say, look, I'm going to become friends with this guy, or I'm going to get to know him. There are a lot of people that just let you run by, and literally.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Looking back on where you are today, this is where you need to be. I just feel it just getting to know you in this room.
Sure.
You have arrived where you need to be. And so thank you for sharing about the experiences, the challenges, with family life, you know what I mean? And overcoming that and pouring into your grandkids and your clients you have today.
Well, I'll tell you though, going back to my kids, it took me, I think maybe I did or maybe I didn't mention it, but it took me 5 years. I remember it was 5 years to be able to have my children call me and ask me for help.
Yeah.
Because of trust. And leadership, if we don't trust our leader, if we can't relate to them on a more personal basis, if we can't communicate with them openly, if we can't be transparent, we're missing out as being leaders. And I'm so happy that now my relationship with my children and I have 3 and they're all obviously adults, but I have a great relationship with them now, and they call me often when they have issues. And now I listen. I don't tell them what to do. I can offer options and say, what do you think about this? So I use the coaching skills that I've learned through various, I was at Vistage for a while, and then I started my own practice, and I was a certified coaching professional. So I went through a lot of different things, but I also do a lot of reading, and I spend tons of time with other people that I want to surround myself with that are like-minded, that I can learn from. So if any advice I can give to any young leader, find a group, find a coach, find someone that can be a trusted advisor that you can speak with openly, honestly, and without judgment. And for me, that's king. That's the ultimate in being able to be a real leader in the path to get there.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning in this week at Lead, Grow, Live. We're going to put the show notes in on how you can get in touch with Jim, but I'm going to tell you, I hope that you got value out of it like I did. Here I am a coach who has coaches, but this guy is the real deal. I want to thank him for coming in, but I want to thank you for listening. If you or somebody you know would be a great guest on this podcast, please reach out to me at jeff@companygrowthacademy.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. It's all about leading your people, growing your company, and living your life.